Here we go.
This is this between us.
The number one podcast in the world.
This is
The JBU.Show featuring Austin,
from the Miller Talk Podcast,
ALLAN,
the American Sincerist.
and now your host,
Cam Allen.
All right, how's it going, everybody? My name is Chris, and this is the JBU Show. And unfortunately, you guys just missed my co-host, Austin, from the Miller Talk Podcast. He had a long day today, so he couldn't stick around tonight. But hopefully, he'll be on for the weekend show, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because we are one of the few shows that will be on over the weekend for you, since nobody else is, and I find that just rude. Anyway, we have a packed show tonight. As I've always said, when it rains, it pours as far as the news is concerned, so there are about a billion different things that we can cover. We got all kinds of videos, stories, updates on stories that we started earlier in the week. And we're going to start off tonight with some sage advice, I think, from James Carville. I was going to say the late, great James Carville, but I'm pretty sure he's still alive. I'll have to look into that while he's giving us this sound advice here.
Maybe we need a schism, and maybe we need a schism with the so far progressive left. I want to read something. Our country should be more fearful of white men because they're causing most of the deaths within this country. Ilhan Omar. Lady, why don't you just get out the Democratic Party? Honestly, start your own movement. All right, let's do the simple math. Probably 69%, I don't know, we could call Jim Gerstein or Jeff Garrett. Roughly 69% of the people going to vote in November, maybe more. Let's do 70 for just round math, are going to be white. Of that, 48%, maybe a little more, are going to be male. So that's roughly, let's just call it 33.33% of the entire election. Well, let's just run against them because that's so goddamn smart. All right. So now we're going to have a campaign by the progressive left against white men who vote about a third of everybody that votes in an election. Why don't you, lady, start your own party? And then when it's over, if you want to caucus with the Democrats, fine. We agree with a lot of things that you do, but we don't believe we ought to be running against white men. In fact, we don't think we ought to be running against any gender, any ethnic group, any race, any religion, or anything else. God damn, these people are just helpless. They cannot be helped. There's nothing you can do to help them. They don't want to be helped. And if they had any guts, they'd start their own goddamn political party.
Why didn't
and
the
get out of
Democrats
ours.
listen to Carville?
I'm sorry.
If only they had listened to the man, maybe they wouldn't be in the position that they're in. Now, that video was circulating over the last 24 hours or so on X, and people were claiming that it was a response to the State of the Union that Ilhan Omar made a fool of herself at. Not that that's shocking, but it actually is an older video from like 2025, where he was apparently responding to a video from 2018 that she did with Al Jazeera. But maybe they should have listened. That's all I'm saying. If they would have just listened to him, they would be in a much better place. So a YouTube streamer who goes by the name Scrubs New York City, or NYC, who might be the weirdest person I've ever seen streaming. I should clarify, streaming. Was arrested today for setting a woman's boots on fire on air. And listen to this story here. Let me get the story real fast. 54-year-old woman's boots set on fire in racist assault. Just the headline alone is odd as hell. And this is the picture that they provide, which in and of itself all of a sudden begs many questions. I'll play the video for you in a minute, because when you watch the video, suddenly it starts to make a little more sense, but it's still just weird as hell. 54-year-old woman walking through Chelsea last Thursday afternoon became a target of a shocking, humiliating street attack that police are investigating as a hate crime. More on that in a second. The incident unfolded just before 3 p.m. near West 26th Street and 7th Avenue. According to the NYPD, the woman was approached by the two men authorities say quickly escalated from harassment to racially charged assault. Police said one of the men, wearing a bright red MAGA hat, navy jacket, and green scarf, attempted to speak to the woman and leaned in to kiss her without consent. When she pushed him away, officers say the situation turned hostile. Ben allegedly began hurling anti-black statements at her as she tried to disengage. I'll let you decide for yourself when we watch the video. Here. Meanwhile, his companion, described as wearing a blue striped beanie and black jacket and holding a smartphone mounted on a tripod, filmed the encounter. Authorities say the pair then attempted to prevent the woman from leaving the scene. In a deeply disturbing escalation, police allege the man in the red hat brandished a lighter and set the woman's boots on fire, while the second man recorded the assault. The woman, suddenly confronted with flames at her feet, was forced to react in panic in the middle of a Manhattan sidewalk. Now, that sentence alone leads me to believe that they didn't actually watch the video before writing the article. I guess I can't turn my head that way to try and keep that sound from going on the microphone if I have it over here. Anyway, the attack, which happened in broad daylight in a busy neighborhood, left the woman shaken but able to report the incident, thank God. Police did not immediately release details about the extent of her physical injuries, but the psychological toll of being racially targeted, harassed, and set on fire in public, it's impossible to ignore. Investigators began searching for the suspects soon after. Just hours later, the two men were arrested in dramatic fashion while live streaming in Manhattan. A reporter observed them broadcasting on YouTube, reading aloud coverage of the incident and denying they had lit the woman's boots on fire. They boasted, incorrectly, that they were on the cover of the newspaper while walking through the city in clothing matching the description circulated by police. The live stream captured them continuing to harass bystanders and casually using racial slurs and making lewd comments about women. At one point, they appeared to taunt police officers, unaware they were about to be taken into custody. Sirens soon rang out, and officers approached the pair while the camera continued rolling. They were handcuffed and placed in a patrol vehicle as viewers watched. An officer appeared to attempt to stop the live stream, which continued briefly before fading to black. For the woman at the center of the attack, the arrests bring a measure of relief, but not erasure. What began as a routine walk down a Manhattan street turned into a terrifying confrontation marked by racism, humiliation, and violence. The NYPD continues to investigate the incident. Thank God. Thank God the NYPD is on top of this. All right. Let's watch the video and see for ourselves what exactly took place. Now, to be really clear, because you can tell I'm being sarcastic, obviously, I in no way am condoning or anything that happens in this video. It's all stupid. Like, really, really high-level stupidity, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. Whatever. Here you go.
So
I want to fuck you right up your nigger ass.
Of course
I want to fuck a slave.
And you know what you really want? You don't want to fuck
By the way, sorry about the language. It is what it is.
me.
Be my slave.
I could never, because you're a slave.
Just suck on my finger.
You're a slave to my. You're a slave to my
Just
black
stick your
ass.
finger.
You know what's
So
funny?
she's calling him a slave.
Of
He
course.
called her
Then do
something,
it.
I think
Get
probably
down.
a slave. I'm not 100% sure.
Hold this.
Boys, before you get to, I gotta take them.
They're clearly both being confrontational, which of course was not mentioned.
Tell me I'm a little white bitch for you.
I will.
And you'll notice something
I would
interesting.
never kiss you. I would never. Get back up. First of all, you will back up. Back your white ass up and get down. And you, bitch, I know what you're doing. Get down. You too. You. Back down. Kiss my ass. Kiss my shoe. Now. Do it. Now.
She's telling him to kiss her shoe. He bends down. That appears to be a lighter.
So good at that shit. You fucking asshole.
Kiss me, or
My first question when I read the article was, why was the woman holding her foot out? That's
Bring
why.
your boobs. Now what?
Oh, of course you did.
Clearly, she's panicking in the middle of the sidewalk, of course, too, right?
Kiss me.
I would
Terrified.
never kiss you. I'm never sorry, and I would never kiss you. I never kiss you.
Enjoy your butt shit, nigga.
I will. Bitch,
you
you're the
ugly
nigga.
ass.
Your body, your mama is ugly. And your mama is the nigga. You asked me so. You asked me. Of course you want to impregnate me and contaminate.
I don't know that we
my-
really need to watch much more of this. I'm going to turn it down.
Oh,
You
yeah.
wanna
I'll let it
more,
keep
more.
playing.
And I love that look.
But as you can see, at any moment in time, she could have walked away. It says she was trying to break off the engagement but couldn't. But that, of course, is not happening. Now look, the dude is being a asshole, right? Like, I don't know how else to put it. He's being an asshole. But, and please, like, let's not, I'm showing you this video because somebody else posted it, so I don't have to give him any views. Don't give views to these idiots. Please don't. Like, he's clearly wasted. I don't know if he's drunk or high or whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't care what you do on your own time, but if you're going to go out in public and harass people on live stream for clicks, somebody just knock him out. I mean, it's just, but to call that a racially charged attack, and of course, you know, did he put a lighter to her boots? Yes. Did he set her boots on fire? No. Did he single her out because she was black? No. He singled her out because she engaged. Everyone else just kept walking. As the report continued, they went on to harass other people out throughout the day. She chose to engage with him. She chose to go back and forth with the harassment. So, really, you know, could you press charges for the lighter thing? I suppose. Outside of that, to call it a hate crime and stuff, can we bring normalcy back at all? Like, can we bring the slightest modicum of responsibility and sanity back to the way that we deal with these matters? I guess not, but that would in fact be the goal ultimately. At least I would hope. Let's take a look. I have yet to actually get the details myself, but we know last night that, or yesterday rather, that Cuba opened fire on a American boat. This boat, Cuba claimed, only contained Cuban nationals, meaning Cuban citizens, that lived in America. It did not contain any American citizens. They claimed that they were well armed and were headed to Cuba to pull off some sort of secret mission, basically. Thankfully, the Trump administration announced that they were going to institute their own investigation. They were not going to take the word of the Cuban authorities. Thank God. I said last night, look, if these guys were going to smuggle Cubans out or do anything else that's against the law in Cuba, and they got caught and killed doing that because they were being violent, I have no problem with them trying and smuggling people out of Cuba or whatever else they were trying to do necessarily. I don't know exactly, so I don't want to say I have no problem with it. But generally speaking, you know, I can understand why Cubans would want to help get more Cubans to America. I get that. Now, there's a question about illegal immigration, but putting that aside for a minute, But at the same time, we have to recognize, we can't go to war because somebody decided to go break a foreign country's laws. So they're kind of on their own if that's what they chose to do. And of course, they knew that getting into it. If one of them was an American citizen, that changes things a little bit. Turns out one of them was, according to our State Department, at least one of the men on board was an American citizen. That changes things. Another thing that might change things is whether or not they had actually committed a crime yet. If Cuban forces opened fire on them and they had not fired on Cuban forces, that radically changes the scenario. So let's get today's updates and find out where we are and go from there. By the way, don't forget to please share the show, help this reach more people, and of course, like, follow, do all that good stuff. But please share the show right now while you are watching. Get it out to more people on more platforms, and help us bring this show to you. Thank you. All right, let's get to this video.
Cuba. All 10 men, which Cuba described as heavily armed and bent on terrorism, have been living in the United States. And according to a U.S. official, at least one of the 4 dead was a citizen of the United States. Here's CBS News correspondent Christian Benavides. Christian, good evening.
Tony, good evening. U.S. officials are pressing for answers from Cuban officials, and they're calling for an independent investigation into the deadly incident that happened in Cuban waters. A White House official confirmed to CBS News that U.S. citizens and legal residents were involved in yesterday's deadly shootout off the coast of Cuba. And we're told at least one U.S. citizen is currently in Cuban custody. According to Cuba's Ministry of the Interior, the Florida-registered boat was a nautical mile northeast of the El Pino Canal in Cayo Falcones when the Cuban border guard approached it for identification. Cuban officials claim there were 10 armed men on board and that they opened fire first, injuring a Cuban commander. Cuba says its border guard returned fire, killing 4 men and injuring 6 others. The injured were taken to this hospital in Cuba for treatment. Cuban officials say assault rifles, homemade explosive devices, and bulletproof vests were seized. They claim the men intended to carry out an infiltration for terrorist purposes.
We're going to find out exactly what happened here.
It seems unlikely.
And then we'll respond accordingly.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
I forgot to mention
have access to these people.
That
we have also
we actually have statements from family from some of the men.
A sheriff's report obtained by CBS News states it was reported stolen yesterday. The boat's owner told law enforcement he knew one of the men on board who is believed to have taken it. The vessel is a 24-foot Proline motorboat manufactured in 1981, similar to this one. Tonight, Cuban officials released the names of all 10 men on board. Among the 4 killed, Michelle Ortega Casanova. His phone is still ringing. Ibrahim Bosch hasn't stopped calling his friend Ortega. Together, they attended rallies advocating for freedom in Cuba. What was he like? He was an excellent person. Ortega's family tells CBS News they have not received any information and are pleading for answers on how they can recover his body. Another friend who knew Ortega said that Ortega told him that he was willing to risk everything for Cuba, including taking up arms. Cuban officials, meantime, said that they have.
If that was your plan, you probably should have gotten in shape. Probably should have gotten in shape first, buddy.
Tonight, a new chapter in the surprisingly warm relationship.
All right, we don't need to hear about the Colombian student. We have some more information here, which we will get to. And like I said, we actually have statements from some of the family of some of these men, which we are going to get to in just a moment. Let's see. Let's check. What is this? ABC Today? I forget. I forget what news station this is, but let's see if they have any different information real fast.
Overnight, new accusations from the Cuban government after a deadly gunfight in Caribbean waters left 4 people dead, sparking fears of a new escalation between the U.S. and Cuba. Secretary of State Marco Rubio skeptical of Cuba's version of events.
It is highly unusual to see shootouts an open sea like that. But we're going to find out. We're not going to base our conclusions on what they've told us.
The Cuban Interior Ministry says 4 people were killed and 6 injured after Cuba's Border Patrol intercepted a speedboat that was registered in Florida. In a new statement overnight, the Cuban government says the boat's passengers were Cuban residents of the United States and accuses the passengers of intending to carry out an infiltration for terrorist purposes. Adding assault rifles, Molotov cocktails, and other weapons were seized.
We obviously want to have access to these people if they are American citizens or U.S. residents. But I'm not going to speculate now because right now, still, a lot of the information that's out there is information that's been provided by the Cubans.
The shootout happened off the island's northwest coast Wednesday morning. According to Cuban officials, their border patrol approached the boat and attempted to ask the passengers for ID, but they opened fire and Cuban officers shot back.
Con matrícula de la Florida.
Cuban television says one of the country's border patrol commanders was injured and that Cuba will protect its territorial waters.
That region of the world was just like a powder cake, right? Could blow up at any time.
Tensions with the communist country just 90 miles off the Florida coast already high as President Trump has ramped up pressure in recent weeks.
Cuba is right now a failed nation.
Fuel shortages have devastated Cuba's economy, with the U.S. blocking virtually all oil shipments to the island following the American capture of Venezuela's authoritarian leader, Nicolas Maduro.
Gabe, let's talk about the folks on that boat for a moment here. 4 dead, 5 captured. What more do we know about those individuals?
Well, the survivors are being treated at a hospital in Cuba, Craig, and in a statement, that country's government says the majority of the people on the boat have a known history of criminal and violent activity. The U.S. has so far not confirmed that and is conducting its own investigation as to why they were on that boat.
All right, so we didn't really learn anything new there. Let's take a look at what the family has said. This comes from Fox. Family members of the American killed by Cuban forces in a boat shootout says he was on a diabolical mission. That's an interesting way to put it. The brother of the American citizen killed in the brazen boat clash with Cuban forces says his sibling was consumed by an obsessive and diabolical push to free the island, and that no one knew what he was planning. Well, if no one knew what he was planning, then how do you? An American citizen, Michael Ortega Casanova, who worked as a truck driver, was one of the 10 passengers on a Florida-registered boat that allegedly opened fire on Cuban soldiers in an attempt to infiltrate the island. Ortega Casanova, who lived in the U.S. for more than 2 decades, was one of 4 killed in the attempt. He is survived by his wife, mother, brother, 2 sisters, daughter, and unborn grandchild. Unfortunate. 6 other passengers, all Cubans living in the U.S., were injured. Ortega Casanova's brother, Miziel, told the Associated Press on Wednesday that his brother had an obsessive and diabolical pursuit for Cuba's freedom. Only us Cubans who have lived over there understand the great suffering. He said no one knew about his brother's plans to infiltrate the island, noting their mother is devastated. They became so obsessed that they didn't think about the consequences or their own lives. While Ortega Casanova's family did not recognize any of the other passengers, Miziel said maybe the attempt will justify that someday Cuba will be free. He refrained from labeling the group as heroes, describing the idea as ignorance. Kind of seems that way. Cuban officials said many of the boat passengers, who were intercepted roughly 1 mile northeast of Cayo Falcones, off Cuba's north coast, had a known history of criminal and violent activity. Again, that's Cuba's word for it. As far as I know, none of these men had any records in the United States for criminal activity. As far as I know. Passengers, Amajale, Sanchez Gonzalez, and Leorden Enrique Cruz Gomez were wanted by Cuban authorities for their involvement in the promotion, planning, organization, financing, support, or commission, that's a lot of things, of actions carried out in the national territory or in other countries in connection with acts of terrorism, according to the government. What does that mean? It means they're anti-Cuba and they live in America. It doesn't mean anything. That's exactly what socialist governments do. It's exactly why it was so dangerous when the Biden administration created a Department of Misinformation. Moving on. Cuban politician Bruno Rodriguez Parilla posted on X after the incident, claiming a rigorous investigation is being conducted to clarify the facts. Cuba has had to face numerous terrorist and aggressive infiltrations originating from the EEUU since 1959 at a high cost in lives, injuries, and material damage. Rodriguez Parilla wrote in a post, "The defense of Cuba's coast, of national territory, and of national security is ineludable duty." Secretary of State Mark Rubio said the U.S. is working to determine if the passengers were American citizens or permanent residents. "We have various different elements of the U.S. government that are trying to identify elements of the story that may not be provided to us now," Rubio told reporters while in St. Kitts. "Suffice it to say, it is highly unusual to see shootouts in open sea like that. It's not something that happens every day." Rubio said the U.S. will verify facts independently. Vice President J.D. Vance said he was briefed on the incident. "Hopefully it's not as bad as we fear it could be." Florida's Attorney General James Uttermeyer said prosecutors will work with federal, state, and local law enforcement partners to start an investigation. "The Cuban government cannot be trusted, and we will do everything in our power to hold these communists accountable," Uttermeyer wrote in a social media post. Now, unfortunately, his brother didn't really help out with that, with throwing him under the bus with his diabolical plan. So look, it sounds like these guys thought that they were going to do something heroic, or what they believed was heroic, but drastically underestimated, or overestimated rather, their own abilities. It's very unfortunate. If that is in fact the case, now of course, he said nobody knew, so maybe he isn't exactly aware of what was actually going on. I don't know. But if that is what happened, that they had gone to the island believing that they were going to pull off some sort of mastermind attack against Cuban forces, that would definitely be ignorant. And I don't know. I don't know what we do about that. It comes down to, did they open fire on the Cuban official, or did the Cuban officials open fire on them? That's what it comes down to, I think. Especially since one of them is an American citizen. Because what they were going to do is irrelevant. If they didn't shoot the Cuban officials first, and I'm kind of questioning whether they did, since all 6 of them were taken out by Cuban officials, and they only shot one guy. That sounds to me like they were shot first. Cuban military, not exactly known for being crack squad. I don't know. I don't know. All we can do is speculate at the moment. Speaking of speculation, Los Angeles Times today posted that Trump's State of the Union address draws 32.6 million viewers, marking the smallest audience yet. That's the headline. Very misleading. Now look, I don't care how many people watched. I really don't. It's not that big of a mark of his popularity. A lot of people watch Biden just for the spectacle. I watch Biden just for the spectacle. But when they say smallest attendance yet, let me see how they word it in the actual article. Obviously, the headline is misleading. Maybe they're a little more truthful in the article. Let's find out. If not, I'll give you the facts. Over 32.6 million viewers watched President Trump address the nation on Tuesday night, according to the Nielsen data. It's both the smallest audience Trump has received for an annual speech to a joint session of Congress and the longest State of the Union address in recent history. This was the president's first State of the Union address of his second term. Previously, his address scored 45.5 million in 2018, 46.8 million in 2019, and 37.1 million in 2020, according to Nielsen data. This year's speech clocked in at 107 minutes, topping the previous record set by President Clinton in 2000. Facing low approval ratings, Trump played up positive economic numbers, some of which were misstated. I didn't catch anything that was misstated. There are different ways to frame it, but that's different from misstated. And misstated is not the same as lied. In the administration's aggressive crackdown on undocumented immigrants, drawing polarized reactions in the chamber. Shocking. Trump also recognized the men's Olympic hockey team, which won its first gold medal since 1980 on Sunday, yada yada. Okay, we don't need to go through the whole so-to. There were 15 networks that televised the speech. Fox News had the largest audience with 9.1 million viewers, ABC with 5.1, NBC 3.6, CBS 3.3, MS Now 2.4, CNN 2.2, and Fox Broadcast Networks 2.1 million. Okay, here's the thing. One, the percentage of people streaming since 2019 is considerably higher, and while Nielsen counts streaming services for news channels, they don't count all streaming services. I streamed it, for example. I'm sure you did too. Most Americans probably did. Those numbers aren't included. They're being facetious. But second, it is Trump's lowest State of the Union. So, it's still higher than every single one of Biden's. No mention of that. Biden's highest State of the Union scored, let's see. $31.2 million. Yep. So it was about 1.5 million more people than Biden's, not including streaming. But again, who really cares? The fact that they even make these headlines just shows the desperation, in my opinion. It just highlights the need to undermine anything possible because they have nothing legitimate to put forward. Because their plans are terrible for this country. You don't have to like Trump, but nobody can logically say that Biden was doing better things for the country. There is no logical realm where you can say that. Let's see. We got stuff about immigrant truck drivers. We got stuff about the snowball fight from the NYPD before. Let's go to something funny, though. Let's go to our first leftist meltdown of the day. Liberal woman bursts out in tears, saying she isn't meant to live like this, and humans are destroying the planet. This comes from Defiant Els, at Defiant Els on X. Go check out their page.
I'm literally...
And originally comes from ep.xoxo on TikTok, apparently.
Just gonna make a part 2, I don't care. I'm like freaking out because the world is so beautiful, but it's so ugly. We're destroying it, like... It wasn't meant to be like this, and I don't know what to do. I want to be a part of it.
How was it meant to be? Please, tell us. How was it meant to be? The ignorance of just young people in general, but of young women especially, is astounding on how we got to the advanced civilization that we are.
I mean, we're literally, we're taking away, like, habitats, deforestation, like, we're ruining everything.
There is 70% more green coverage on the Earth today than there was in the year 1979. 70%! Or no, I always do that. 700%, I believe. I'll have to double check, but it's 700%, I believe, more green coverage today than there was in 1979.
what to do. I mean, I think that this is like almost mostly my problem. It's just the weight of how evil and selfish this world, like the humans are, not this world, the humans.
And this is what leftism does to you.
I've just been staring at this do better.
Okay, first of all, if walking outside and seeing that led to this eternal breakdown of yours, that's a problem. And your parents have failed you. Dramatically. Your parents have failed you.
I don't know how. Like, I need help. Like, I don't know who to talk to. I don't know. Like, how do I find, like, activist groups?
I don't
How do I
know.
fly across the world? I just want to, like, save the planet, save the animals. Instead, I need to find insurance and a home and pay bills and look for clients and drive on concrete and live in concrete buildings. And why not when this world is dying? This is not what I was meant for. Like, fuck a part 2. I'm just gonna post this as it is and maybe even post my first one. I don't know.
What was
I
this
don't know
world?
why my phone's not
meant-
picking up all the trash.
What were
This
you meant
isn't
for?
even bad.
Why aren't you picking it up?
Someone
Why
please
are
tell
you
me
standing
what's
there
good, like,
crying
actually.
instead of picking it up? And this is the thing that always pisses me off the most about these people. You're standing around crying, filming your crying, your breakdown, when you could have been picking up that trash and making the better world that you claim to want. Why aren't you doing that? Well, because that actually takes work, right? That actually takes effort. That actually takes putting something forward. Absolutely drives me nuts. But here's the thing. This is part of the leftist indoctrination. The idea that humans are bad. We are inherently the plague on this planet. We are not a natural part of this ecosystem, as we quite clearly are. We didn't put ourselves here. Deer didn't put themselves here. Elk didn't put themselves here. Polar bears, whales didn't put themselves here. And neither did humans. We just live here like everything else. But according to leftists, we are a plague on this earth that must be contained. Take that to its logical conclusion. That makes humans the enemy. This woman believes that her existence is evil. That's why I say your parents failed you. Your existence as a human is not evil. You didn't choose to be put here. Nobody else did. We are part of the natural ecosystem on this planet. Our existence is natural on this planet. And there isn't shit we can do to change that. But this absolute toxic mindset of leftism that insists humans are some sort of plague or disease on this planet is destroying our children in the West, not just America. Democrats, this is your fault. Of course, they know that, but I don't know. Let's go to something a little bit lighter before we go to another psycho-leftist. Canadians have gone into a full delusion mode, and it's kind of funny. Not your 51st state. The fantasy is lost. We'll kick the orange man out at any cost. Beavers build, moose charge. Rangers lead the way. They mean park rangers. Not like U.S. Army Rangers, obviously, because they're Canadian. Canada stays ours, come what may. Look at this. You better hope that the beavers and the moosies and the bears are willing to suit up for you. Because there's like 6 people in Canada. And you have 2 guns between the 6 people. Come on. Let's not be so delusional. Tim Hortons.
There was a time our border ran free and wide, no walls, no fences, neighbors living side by side, poutine and burgers shared through snow and rain. We fought the same wars and carried the same pain, but an orange man
Not exactly
came
true.
pounding on our door with 51st state fantasies we won't ignore. We're done with the sorries and keeping the peace. Canadian resistance, it's time to gather the beast. Not your 51st state, that fantasy is lost. We'll kick the orange man out at any cost. Beavers build, moose charge, rangers lead the way. Canada stays ours, come what may.
It's all here, officer. I'm just a tourist. Sorry, sir. No Americans allowed.
Oh no! What will we do with our Canadian vacations? Literally said no American ever.
The traps with their clever paws, geese flying bee formation, enforcing nature's laws. No more sorry and no more please. We will bring the big talker to his knees. Not your 51st.
Did you notice they're driving American vehicles? Those were all Ford pickups. And those are strikers. Also, American vehicles. Washington State, by the way, home of the striker units.
Beavers build, moose charge, rangers lead the way. Canada stays ours, come what may.
Ironically, those are not American cars. Oh look, US M4s.
Rangers scout the border with a steady eye. Hockey players hold their ground beneath Canadian sky. Tim's at dawn keeps the resistance alive.
That's enough of this.
Double
This is
doubles
nonsense.
carry us through the night. Lobsters move deep down on the ocean floor. They cut the neighbor's fiber to our shore. Our patience is gone. Politeness.
Did they not notice that all those lobsters just died? The poor planet! We're killing it! I'm gonna fast forward here to the end, because this music is really not doing it for me. Oh look, they're killing Trump in effigy. Isn't that cute? Maybe your Canadian quiche should stay on that side of the border, eh? Look, it's cute. The delusion is cute. But come on, guys. Let's not pretend that your 6 fighter jets, no Navy, and like 6 dudes would stop us if we actually wanted to. You exist solely out of our good graces. And so making us your enemy for simply wanting fair trade for you to take your tariffs off, probably not a good idea. Probably not. And by the way, how's that working out for your economy? I'm not going to pull up the charts. They don't look good. Some people just don't know when to stop. That's really what it comes down to. All right, we're going to go to more crazy leftists. This one's pretty funny. So, again, I highlight these things for a couple reasons. But most importantly, because, like, your grandma, your mom, your dad, your grandfather, and then also your kids, they believe this shit. Absolutely no proof. No confirmation of any sort. But they'll believe it. Now see if you can spot the immediate BS in this video. It should be pretty easy.
ICE is holding all pregnant minors in a single Texas facility. Children as young as 13 are being held there, and here's what makes this even more disturbing. At least half of them are pregnant as a result of rape, and they're being held in a state under a total abortion ban with no exceptions. In the past, pregnant minors were placed in foster care or shelters equipped to handle high-risk pregnancies. That changed when the Trump administration ordered all pregnant children be placed into the San Benito program moving forward, despite internal findings that the facility isn't equipped to care for them. Now, experts are sounding the alarm. The Center for Reproductive Rights released a statement saying it's not a coincidence that the Trump administration is sending young pregnant girls to be detained in a state where abortion is banned. Here are my sources if you want more information.
Where were the sources? You said you were going to provide sources, and then you didn't. Please tell me that these guys that are not, it's not entirely clear if they're supposed to be ICE agents. I see what looks like a badge around his neck. Or migrants. I see a child here. Are they having a seance in the middle of the room? Has the devil possessed them? Is that what's going on? And again, no sources, just claims. Just saying shit. And I wish we could just laugh it off. People believe it. They just listen to it. And it's time we start mocking those people. And start mocking them sufficiently, correctly, accurately, I guess is the best way to put it. Because, and to do that, by the way, this has 3,500 likes, 2,100 retweets. The reason why ridicule is necessary and the way in which you need to do it is a way that makes them feel stupid for believing something that is clearly BS. It's clearly fake images, probably generated by AI, hence the people floating in the middle of the room. And the woman on the screen is no person of authority, and she's just saying shit. She even says at the end, here's my sources, and then provides no sources. All right, you ready for the crazy now?
You sure you want to light this?
There's your preview. All right, so this person, Mama Bear Energy 2, apparently Billy Nelson, that's the name on the profile. Run, little princess, run. Go call mommy. Have a cry and a MAGA prayer. You ain't hard, bitch. You just play on behind a screen. Go get a job and stop leeching off your boyfriend. You really are pathetic. Hashtag FYP, hashtag young. Oh, you gon' learn today. Hashtag job, hashtag princess, hashtag viral. These are the people. These are the people.
You sure you want to light this candle, Sarah? You
By the way, a lot of language incoming.
sure you want to light this motherfucker all the way up? Let's do it, babe. Sit down. We're going to have a little talk. See, because I posted today about a very real situation that I'm going through because I am a disabled human in the year 2026. I fucking know. Woo, crazy. And have been disabled since 2011. So yeah, 15 years. And right now, I'm in the middle of a medical review because I had a work trial that did not work because I would prefer to work. I can't work. It physically and mentally is not possible. I do try.
I believe that it's
but then
mentally
you
not
came in and
possible.
said this shit, didn't you, Sarah? Get a job? Question mark. Get a job.
That's all she said
Question.
to set this
You
off.
weren't doing that for any other thing than to be the mean, entitled, spoiled little fucking bitch princess that you have always fucking been. How do I know? Your ass was at my wedding. And unlike you, I am still married to
I was going to say, apparently, they know each other.
the same man now for 25 years. You know, your older brother? Yeah, that's my husband's best friend. That's why you...
I also want to note real quick that she's too disabled to work, but not too disabled to go and beat this woman up, apparently.
got to go there
Okay.
when you were just a little itty bitty girl. But get a job, right? Get a job. Sarah, you live in the town that I grew up in. It is 1,500 people. Why are you a stay-at-home mom to 4 kids? Why don't you get a fucking job? Oh, wait, it says home educator.
She has 4 kids.
You're a teacher. You're an at-home school teacher to children in a fucking white Christian
What's
school
sad is somebody is
in
driving the
Michigan
car listening
with
to this right now.
1,500 residents, so a couple hundred students, and they can't have public education in the whitest town in Michigan? Get a fucking job, Sarah. They're in school. They should be in school. They should be communicating and having other things with other children within the community. And if you're feeling froggy, Sarah, walk to the end of your fucking driveway and look left, because less than 1,000 feet from the end of your driveway is my parents' driveway. And if you want to meet up and square, bitch, we can fucking go all day. I'm not going to be lectured by somebody whose parents literally fucking bail you out of everything in life. Oh, poor Sarah. Oh, she's divorced. Oh, her ex-husband was a nightmare. You fucking married him, dipshit. Maybe you're a shit-ass judge of character. Coming for me? Dumbest fucking move you ever fucking made. Sarah Thompson. In Schoolcraft, Michigan. Living in sin with a man who won't marry you. So yes, I would prefer to work. Yes, I would prefer to have a job. Yes, I would prefer to not be disabled. But what I would really like is for people like you to stop being fucking thunder cunt. You sit on a place of fucking
I didn't know
privilege
that
and
one
you
was coming.
fucking... Oh, I hope you go call your mom right fucking now. Don't worry, she'll make a comment. She always fucking does. Kisses!
Now remember, she said, quote, "Go call mommy, have a cry and a MAGA prayer." This is the caliber of person that believes videos like the ones we just watched before that. It's also the caliber of person that has an equal vote to you. That person cancels out your vote. How's that feel? Special? I think it feels special. That's how I would put it. Well, I will say that her profile description, whatever the hell it's called, her bio checks out. Unhinged. Here, I'll put it on screen. Unhinged and unapologetic. Unafraid. Feral wife. Okay. I feel very bad for the likely also feral husband. But whatever. Do we want to learn about communism next? Or James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett. Let's see. Why America is Not Normal. What else do we have here? Why Wokies Can't Write. That's too depressing for today, so we'll leave that one off. Christopher Winston, a self-described Maoist advocating revolutionary violence. DSA's the Democratic Socialists of America National Political Committee voted 15-10 to keep him on. This is what he said.
Armed struggle is the highest form of struggle.
I don't know if
these
I'm
people
gonna
that
leave
are
it
doing
on or not.
all these horrible things, they need to be suppressed. They need to be suppressed. There is no free marketplace, free exchange of ideas with the enemy.
We're going to bring you to people's justice. We're going to execute you after the revolution.
What a lot of comrades do is they try to live vicariously through the struggles of other people, forgetting that our purpose is to make revolution here in the United States and actually get this albatross from around the neck of the world's people. One thing about Maoists, when we say protracted people's war, we mean protracted. We will literally fight you for 100 years. What violence? Somebody popping the tires on a Waymo or somebody burning a Waymo is not political violence. The Democrats are objective enemies. They're enemies of Palestinian people. They're enemies of black people. They're enemies of immigrants.
If everybody at DSA was like you guys, we would have the revolution tomorrow.
Revolutionary violence is universal law. That's how this country was founded. That's how revolutionary China was founded. That's how you got the ability to do every single fucking thing you do. You're able to knock on doors for Zeron because fucking 150, 200, how long ago was the American Revolution? 200, 250 years ago, whatever.
No settler colonial state has the right.
Shocking. He doesn't know.
Zero. Zilch, nada. They don't. They don't have the right to exist. Okay? That is why everybody making under $50,000 a year should be given a rifle and a little red book.
Maoism is authoritarian and suppresses the people like in Tiananmen Square. Okay, so what does authoritarianism mean? Maoism, well, people that say this are halfway right. So, yes, when it comes to people like fascists, when it comes to people like the police, when it comes to people like anybody who dares raise a hand to the proletariat, who dares raise a hand to queer people, who dares raise a hand to an immigrant, yes, we are authoritarian. Those people need to be stopped by any means necessary.
I'm not going to say the thing about a.
I wonder if he's aware that Mao would have killed him. Why? He's black and is wearing glasses. Literally one of the reasons that Mao killed people. Hey.
Landlord, because who knows who's listening. Go out and send a strongly worded letter to your landlord tonight.
Strongly worded letter in the form of a very hot piece of metal. Peace.
Peace. Peace. So remember, the Democratic Socialists of America voted 15-10 to keep him on their Red Rabbit Security Commission. I don't care. I don't care that the DSA voted to keep him on. We know these people are radicals, and we know that they can't accomplish anything. They can't even run their own meeting, whatever it's called. Hang on. I don't know why I don't have this as a soundbite yet, but I should. This was just a couple years ago.
Quick point of privilege. Quick point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Guys, first of all, James
Democratic
Jackson,
Socialists in
Sacramento, he,
America.
him. I just want to say, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum? I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on. It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay, is there a speaker against name, chapter, pronoun?
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Okay.
Okay. That went on for some time. That was just 2 examples, but there were many more from that meeting. So am I particularly worried about those people? Yes. I don't care what the DSA does, but I am worried about these people that are clearly willing and ready to use violence against you for not being a communist, for not being a radical socialist. That's a problem. And it's a problem that's not just going to magically go away. As far as what we do about it, I'm not 100% sure. Well, first of all, educate your damn children. Don't let the public schools do it. Aside from that, I'm not sure what we do. Except be very cautious going forward. That dovetails in nicely with this video, so I'm going to play this one. This was originally at hervoice_matters on TikTok. Let me see who that is real quick. Let me go. See if, let's see. 117,000 followers, 2.6 million likes, focuses on political commentary, Democrat progressive perspective, content includes criticism of Donald Trump, Republican politics, discussions on immigration, women's rights, U.S. politics, yada yada. Bio links to a YouTube channel at hervoicematters-pgh, suggesting Pittsburgh connection, likely stands for Pittsburgh, and provides an email for a PR business, hervoicematters_PR, zohomail.com. Also mentions Blue Sky, video, features news clips, commentaries, yada yada. Creator's personal identity, real name, isn't publicly detailed. Okay. This is what Her Voice Matters has to say, and keep this relative to what we just heard from the other douche.
What are we going to do with the MAGA people when this is all over? Whether it takes a year or 10 or 15, the officials that were complicit in this will all go to jail.
They will.
But what are we going to do with the everyday MAGA person that didn't technically break the law?
Didn't technically.
Because I can't care about them, respect them, or even share a meal with these people ever again. So what do we do with them?
I cannot care about, respect, or even share a meal with these people ever again. That likely includes her own family, by the way. Statistics are it at least includes her father and or husband and or brother. Nowhere in the conservative movement have I ever heard anyone say that they can't live with Democrats. There's concern about them having power again because of shit like this. But anyways, no one's concerned about living with them. Especially not the average Democrat. She's talking about the average Trump voter. If you're listening to this, that's likely you. I don't know, man. I don't know. All right, before we get to some more videos, let's go to how Kansas is erasing trans people. Well, we were supposed to. Hang on. It would help if I had a story for it first, probably. Let me see. Oh, there it is. Okay. I just forgot to open it. All right, this comes from USA Today. First of its kind law revokes IDs and enacts bathroom rules. The law retroactively invalidates driver's licenses with updated gender markers that were legally obtained. Driver's licenses and birth certificates for more than 1,000 transgender Americans living in Kansas are now invalid, after a state law went into effect February 26th, banning the changes of sex markers on documents to align with gender identity and reversing previous changes. The law gives no defined grace period, which the state officials have said means any trans person who previously legally changed the marker will immediately have invalid documents, opening them up to possible penalties for driving with an invalid license, for example. Senate Bill 244 was vetoed by Governor Laura Kelly. By Democrat Governor Laura Kelly. Shocking. But the veto was then overridden by Republican supermajorities in the Kansas legislature, allowing it to go into effect on February 26th, reported by Topeka Capital Journal, part of the USA Today network. Kansas joins Texas, Florida, and Tennessee in prohibiting the updating of gender markers on driver's licenses, according to a tracker by the nonprofit Movement Advancement Project, which tracks LGBTQ-related laws and policies. At least 8 other states also ban changes to gender markers on birth certificates for transgender people. The new law makes Kansas the first state in the nation to retroactively invalidate such driver's licenses that were legally obtained, said Harper Selden, a senior staff attorney in American Civil Liberties Union LGBTQ and HIV Project. The newly enacted law also bans transgender people from using bathrooms, locker rooms, and similar facilities in public or government buildings that align with their gender identity. It adds financial penalties for government entities, misdemeanor criminal charges against repeat offenders, and a creation of a civil cause of action for an individual to sue someone who uses the opposite sex bathroom. Now, this goes on for some time, so I'm not going to keep reading it, but is this actually erasing somebody? No. It is requiring that they have legal documents that are accurate and factual, just like everybody else. You have to have the correct gender on your ID. Why would they be exempt from that? That's ludicrous. All right, we'll come back in just a couple minutes here. I'm going to take a quick break and back. back into it, shall we? Just like that. Concerning news coming out of the Fifth Circuit today. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals is, of course, the federal appeals court. It is the one of the second highest courts in the land before the Supreme Court. It's also considered to be the most conservative appeals court, and that's terrifying. Now, this was not an en banc, meaning it was only 3 justices. And so depending on which 3 justices it was out of, I forget how many total, what? Let's see real quick. I think it's like 9 justices. But I don't remember, to be honest. As of 2026, 12 of the 17 active judges were appointed by Republican presidents. So roughly 12, if what, 5? There's 5 liberal justices. So it's possible. They divvy it up, and basically what happens if your case goes to the Court of Appeals, all the cases, they go to the Fifth Circuit, you get a 3-judge panel. If they rule in a way that you don't like, which is true for one of 2 parties every time, then you can ask for an en banc, which is to have the whole appeals court hear the case. That was denied in this case. Now, that's not the end of the road because they can still appeal to the Supreme Court, and that is what has been done. But the ruling in this case, and like I said, it's very concerning, especially coming from the most conservative court. However, of the justices, because 5 of them are liberal, it is possible that there was a 2-3 split, or a 2-1 split rather. It's possible that there was a 3 liberal justices that heard this particular case. But the en banc was denied too, so that also is concerning. What this case, this is a Second Amendment case, by the way. I forgot to mention that part. And the language determined in this case is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying for Americans. Especially because, ever since Bruen, leftist courts and leftist appeals courts have been trying to undermine Bruen by using its language in a specific way that Bruen itself said was inappropriate. What they're trying to do is take a specific part of Bruen, and I'm not going to get into all the details because it takes a lot of back explanation, but they're trying to use a specific phrasing in Bruen and ignore all the other Second Amendment cases from the Supreme Court that set the precedent, like Miller, in order to come up with basically you have no Second Amendment rights whatsoever. Terrifying, but predictable. Now, the Fifth Circuit did not confirm that crazy conclusion, but they have essentially said that suppressors are not integral parts of firearms, or are a firearm part, not a firearm itself, rather, is what they said. And that means that they're not protected by the Second Amendment. Why is that terrifying? It also means they also concluded that it was subject to regulation because the NFA is a shall issue law. There is a lot of shall issue context in Bruen, but I really hope they decide to fix this because it's bad. It's really bad. And the reason it's really bad is because if suppressors, first of all, as firearm accessories or firearm parts, are not covered by the Second Amendment, then no part of the gun is covered by the Second Amendment. You could ban each part individually. And it also means that any accessory whatsoever can be banned. It means that magazine bans will stand. bans, limitations, whatever. It means that suppressor bans could stand. It means that FRT trigger and binary trigger bans will stand. All of it. It's also a terrible interpretation of what Bruen said. Obviously, we're not going to go through the whole case. I believe it's a 62-page document, but there is a couple highlighted portions here that are extremely important. Starting on page 5, it says, the Second Amendment extends prima facie to all instruments that constitute bearable arms, even those that were not in existence at the time of the founding. And both parties agree, quote, arms in the Second Amendment sense comprises weapons of offense, armor of defense, and anything that a man wears for his defense, takes into his hands, or useth in wrath to cast or strike at another. By the way, it would include mortars, artillery, a lot of other things. That language specifically comes from Heller. That is, to constitute an arm, the object in question must be a weapon. Except it just said that arms in the Second Amendment comprises weapons of offense, armors of defense, and anything a man wears for his defense. And then they say that an arm must be a weapon. Armor is not a weapon, but it's clearly protected by the Second Amendment and clearly protected by that sentence in Heller. And a suppressor is part of the weapon, so they're already contradicting themselves in this paragraph. But let's continue. Reasoning the Second Amendment guarantees the individual right to possess carry arms. Whether suppressors constitute arms is an issue of first impression in our circuit, and so far as we can tell, every court to have addressed it has decided the question is the negative. The 10th Circuit adopted that position in United States v. Cox just last month. The 4th Circuit agreed, both very liberal courts, albeit in an unpublished opinion. Well, then it's irrelevant. And district courts from at least 2 other circuits have reached the same conclusion. I don't care what other courts have reached. That's the first concerning part of this. It doesn't matter what other courts have reached. It matters what the Constitution says. And the Constitution says, God damn it. I don't know why every time I go to say the Second Amendment, my brain just goes blank, even though I've said it 10 trillion times, but I want to make sure I get the wording exactly correct. A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What does infringed mean? It means affected or stopped or limited by government in any way. That includes limiting the types of firearms that people could have. That includes limiting the types of firearm accessories that anybody can have. It is telling our government what they cannot interfere with, and that is firearms, period. Yes, that means the NFA is unconstitutional too. And it is. And it's very clear that it is. Regardless, they continue. And district courts from at least 2 other circuits have reached the same conclusion. Again, doesn't matter. Peterson posits that suppressors are, quote, an integral part of a firearm and therefore warrant Second Amendment protection. Inasmuch as a bullet must pass through an attached suppressor to arrive at its intended target, suppressors are used for casting and striking, and thus it fits Heller's definition. But that is wrong, according to the 5th Circuit. A suppressor by itself is not a weapon. Without being attached to a firearm, it would not be much use for self-defense. That language is terrifying, because according to that language, A firearms stock is not a weapon. A firearms barrel is not a weapon. A firearms bolt is not a weapon. Trigger, on and on down the list. Magazine, certainly. Grip, certainly. All not weapons. Ironically, the suppressor would be a better weapon than most of those pieces individually. But regardless, they're saying that if it is not a complete firearm, it is not covered. The court has never said that before. And that is extremely dangerous. Especially coming from one of the most conservative courts in the country. A suppressor, by itself, is not a weapon. Without being attached to a firearm, it would not be of much use for self-defense. And unless a suppressor itself is thrown, which of course is not how firearms work, it cannot do any casting or striking. Noting that a suppressor could be thrown at someone like a shoe or a baseball, which most would agree are not arms protected by the Second Amendment. While the suppressor might prove useful to one casting or striking at another, that usefulness does not transform a gas dissipator into a bullet caster. Instead, we agree with the 10th Circuit that a suppressor is a firearm accessory, not a weapon. Yeah, it's firearm accessory, which is covered. If the weapon is covered, the firearm accessory necessarily must be covered. What about an integral suppressor? That is part of the firearm. And no, it's not required to make a barrel with an integral suppressor. But it would seem to me that as part of the firearm, it would have to be covered then, wouldn't it? And while possession of firearms themselves is covered by the plain text of the Second Amendment, possession of firearm accessories is not. Did the Second Amendment cover the gunpowder? Did it cover the lead balls? Did it cover the primer caps necessary to fire the guns? Did it cover the ramrods? Yes, 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 and yes. Obviously, the Second Amendment covered those things. Peterson has not shown that the NFA registration scheme burdens a constitutionally protected right. Attempting to broaden the Second Amendment scope, Peterson points to United States v. Miller. The case, he says, stands for the proposition that arms include the proper accoutrements that render the firearm useful and functional. Notwithstanding that the Supreme Court did not identify this principle in Heller's extensive treatment of Miller. A suppressor is hardly the sort of accoutrement Miller contemplated. Irrelevant. Rather, the 1785 Virginia statute quoted in Miller used that language to describe items like gunpowder, lead, and cartridges, items necessary to a firearms operation, not just compatible with it. This cannot be the line drawn. And you absolutely must raise hell with every single representative who you can get on the phone. Email. Not to mention judge, by the way. Supreme Court justices in particular. Look, these people do respond to millions of phone calls and emails. You cannot call and lose your temper. You cannot call and scream and call them idiots. But you call and let them know that the American people are watching. And that we want our rights protected, and we will ensure to hold anybody who doesn't protect them accountable at the ballot box. By and large, politicians are big pussies. And by and large, they don't have to deal with constituents. So they do whatever they want. But believe me, 1,000, let alone 1,000,000 phone calls and emails will change their mind. But you have to actually do it. Not hard. Is your Second Amendment right worth taking the time to write a couple emails and forward it to a bunch of people? To dial the phone and leave a few messages? Because if it's not worth that to you, then what's the point? What is the point indeed? This same point dispenses with Peterson's other scope-based argument. He cites Ezel v. City of Chicago, where the Seventh Circuit held that the right to possess firearms for protection implies a corresponding right to acquire and maintain proficiency in their use. The core right, the court reasoned, wouldn't mean much without the training and practice that make it effective, so it concluded that Chicago's citywide firing range ban, was unlikely to pass the Second Amendment muster. Even if we were to follow Ezel, it can hardly be said that a suppressor regulation has rendered the right to bear arms meaningless. The use of a suppressor, as we have noted, is not necessary to the firearm, so it is not protected by the plain text. Unless it's an integral suppressor, then it is absolutely necessary to the function of the firearm. It's like saying a bolt is not necessary to the function of a firearm. Yeah, you can fire a gun without a bolt. We've learned over the years that bolts are far better operating mechanisms than the alternatives, like shoving the ball down the barrel. You see the problem here? This logic can be extended to anything, and these fucking people, they don't think about that. They don't think about the ways in which radical leftists that hate your Second Amendment right, they love their own, but they hate yours, will use any means necessary in any language possible to just expand their abilities to restrict your rights. We've seen it over and over and over again. Don't fall for it. And don't let this stand. The Supreme Court must take this up. Because otherwise it ends here, and this stands. And that is dangerous. The use of a suppressor, as we noted above, is not necessary to the use of firearms, so it is not protected by the plain text of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, therefore, is not offended by the NFA regulation, so we affirm the district court's denial of Peterson's motion to dismiss. We don't need to get into the rest of the case because it has to do with Fourth Amendment violations, which the court also dismissed, by the way. It is hard to express just how bad this is. It really is. You have to call every representative that you possibly can. You have to. I'm sure the Supreme Court has a place to leave messages. You have to send every email that you can. Because if you're not willing to do at least that, why would they listen? Why would they care? What are you going to do about it? You won't even send an email. And just to get you started on that, by the way, obviously the email addresses you can just Google, but here is the main phone number for the switchboard for the House of Congress. Give me just 1 second here. I'm going to put it up on screen. I'm going to add it to the overlays. Let me go to my main. It's going to take me just a second, guys. Hang on. Hopefully this won't cause any problems with the feed. It is 202 224 225 3121. Oh, that's House of Representatives. Hang on. Don't worry, I'm going to put it up on screen. I'm just trying to get it ready. And then the Senate is 202 224 121. Okay. Perfect. Almost done, guys. Sorry. I didn't think this was going to take quite as long as it is, but it's worth doing. All right, here we go. Oh, good Lord. At work? Probably if we do this. There we go. Okay. There you go. There are the phone numbers for the House of Representatives switchboard and the Senate switchboard. Write them down. And tomorrow, call them. Leave a message. And tell them that your Second Amendment rights must be protected and that the Fifth Circuit's recent decision does not align with the Constitution. That's all you gotta say. And then do it every morning. It'll take 30 seconds before you go to work, before you have breakfast, Whatever it is. 30 seconds. Which better be worth your time. You know what? I'll even do, get the Supreme Court up here, too. You could even, if you want to get real old-fashioned, write him a letter. All right. Let me try and get emails too here while I do this. Sorry, guys. I know this is boring for a second, but it is important. It is extremely important. And I guess if I'm telling you that the least you could do is make the phone call, the least I could do is give you the number. So that's what I'm doing. There we go. There's the phone number and the mailing address for the Supreme Court. And in just a second here, we'll get their email addresses too. Oh, okay. They don't have an email address, but they have a public information office. All right. They don't have a direct email, but you can contact the public information office, and I have an email address for them as well as a website where you can just fill it out. You don't even have to pull up an email. You can fill out the website information. So I'll put each one up on screen again, screenshot them. And then do it. That is the most important part. Do it. Let them know that the American people are paying attention. Oh, you gotta be kidding. All right, hang on. Well, the web address is gonna have to be a little bit smaller, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Here, we'll do it like this. We'll put it all on one screen. All right. There you go. There is the website that you can go to and send a message directly, and the email address itself, as well as the telephone number and mailing address for the Supreme Court directly. Let them know that this Fifth Circuit case, which is titled, USA v. Peterson. Let them know that USA v. Peterson, which is soon going to be appealed to the Supreme Court, must be taken up by the court and must be overturned. Believe me, if they get 5,000 emails, it will blow their minds. Screenshot it and then do it. All right, and here's Congress one more time. Screenshot it, then do it. All right. Back to the show. Let's see. What do we have next here? Let's go with this one. This should be interesting. Very nice looking grandma lady. And she has some information for James Tallarico and for Democrats that I think words of real wisdom, if I do say so myself.
There may be valid reasons to vote for James Tallarico, but this ain't it. Watch this video clip and we'll talk about it.
Cast my vote for James Tallarico. It doesn't matter to me, white man versus black woman, whereas James Tallarico has a bit more of a softer tone, understandably.
Everything she said after she said softer tone is irrelevant. She could be the most informed person about politics in Texas, and no one should care, because what she did here is use a ploy that white women have been using for generations. And it is harmful because it reflects our internalized misogyny, but also racism. This is subtle, but it's toxic, and it shows this
It's subtle, but it's toxic.
Indoctrination that manifested in her words. This is the exact indoctrination that many of us received. We often don't believe we have it because we're talking to people who have been trained to hear that proverbial dog whistle. What is that dog whistle? Softer tone equals less threatening equals more attractive to white people. So what exactly is a white woman saying when she says she
civilized means more attractive to white people? You can't make this stuff up.
Prefers a white Christian man because of his softer tone, and that makes him more appealing than a black woman. Well, that is a well-trained instinct inside white supremacy to treat whiteness as safety and blackness as a threat. Softer tone has always been code for what keeps me comfortable. And comfort is a currency white people have demanded at the expense of black women's credibility for generations. Jasmine Crockett is what accountability sounds like when it refuses to perform gratitude for being tolerated. Tone policing is how people dodge the actual message. So when facts are inconvenient, you critique the delivery. So when a black woman refuses to shrink, they'll use words like angry, unprofessional, aggressive, rude, combative, or as Professor Courtney said in her video, Jasmine had a firebrand. That script is old, my friends. The only thing that changes is the century. And in her video, Professor Courtney alludes to her training in American history. So let's talk about it. After the Civil War, the nation had a choice: protect the liberation of black people with force and law or reconcile with the very people who built wealth on slavery. That led to Congress passing enforcement laws because white terror was organizing, and it was strategic and it was relentless. The white sheet men used violence to block black people from voting, from holding office, and from owning property.
The Democrats.
That is why the federal government created tools like the Enforcement Acts. But then the country made a unity choice, and that's the Compromise of 1877, which is widely recognized as the political deal that effectively ended Reconstruction. Federal troops were withdrawn, and the protection that black communities needed was completely abandoned. Once federal protection left, white supremacist rule resurged, and the rights of black people collapsed across the South. And who was responsible for Reconstruction becoming more about abandoned? Once federal protection left, white supremacist rule resurged, and the rights of black people collapsed across the South. And who was responsible for Reconstruction becoming more about protecting the dignity of white Christian Southerners than liberating black people?
No, I'm going to let her continue.
The white Christian man. And who gets protected the most under this Christian patriarchal structure that is our government? The white Christian man. Now let's layer the Christian engine that's underneath all of this. Ministers literally...
Did she just say a racial slur against Native Americans?
I'm
gonna play it again. You can decide
patriarchal
for yourself.
Structure that is our government, the white Christian man. Now let's layer the Christian engine that's underneath all of this. Ministers literally published defenses of slavery and framed it as divinely sanctioned. They connected slavery to household order. Now that matters because it shows how easily Christian language can be used to sanctify the maintenance of white Christian patriarchy, not only in slavery, but in segregation, in voter suppression, and look what's happening in this country right now. So here we are today, where black people in leadership who refuse to perform deference to white Christian men is questioned as being too loud, and white Christian men attributes of softer tones seems to be appealing. She may deny saying it, but that is the undertone in this video. Every time a white woman uses this language, it's a reflection into the indoctrination into white supremacy. That is the vein that runs through American Christianity. It taught us to choose the white man's voice that feels familiar. Choose the man who sounds pastoral. Choose the one who will keep the peace, even if peace is built on someone else's silence. Now let me be clear here. James Tallarico may be sincere. He may be talented. He may even be courageous in the way he critiques Christian nationalism. All of that is good. But this is bigger than James Tallarico. This is about a system that rewards white Christian men for sounding safe while punishing black women for sounding strong. So here's the question I want every white voter, especially white Christian and ex-Christian voters, to answer without flinching. When you say you want soft, who are you asking to suffer quietly so you can feel calm? And here's the question I want white women to answer, because this is where we love to hide. Are you calling Tallarico's softer tone appealing, which means you're calling a black woman too much because she actually is, or because you were trained to treat black clarity as danger? Jasmine's firebrand energy is not a personality flaw, and it is not a weakness. She has already proven that. Jasmine's brand is a refusal to negotiate with the very patterns that have crushed black women for centuries. So no, I'm not interested in the fantasy of the gentle white Christian man rescuing us from the mess white Christian patriarchy has gotten us into. They have been the catalyst that has caused our excruciatingly, painfully slow crawl to claw control of human rights that, if white Christian men were truly living their faith, they should willingly offer it and give it. Instead, they romanticize a unity that prioritizes white Christian men. And that's why I say, right now we need white Christian men to stay in their lane. And I wrote about it, and I meant it. Liberation is not going to come from the same social conditioning that upheld the cage of oppression. If your deciding factor is, I like how he talks, then you need to pause and sit with that, because your nervous system has been trained by whiteness. Mine was too. And I want voters to choose courage over comfort. Now, if you're a white woman watching this and you feel defensive, good. Defense is often the doorway to awareness. Let the discomfort do its holy work. And if you're tone policing black women while claiming you care about justice, you are protecting the very system you say you oppose. You need to deconstruct and decolonize your beliefs and ideology because you are holding on to views that protect your privilege.
You need to destroy yourself and be a miserable old hag like this woman. Look, I know that was a sufferable 7 minutes and 9 seconds to sit through. We didn't even make it to 7 minutes, 15 seconds. But we had to. Because it's time that you understand that these people believe this. She has a whole backstory to why what she's saying is legitimate. Why you should feel guilty just for being white. As if that's not racism itself. I fucking hate having to even discuss it. But they don't leave us much choice. They present us with this shit. She also looks like a very dear friend of mine who passed away recently. And that bugs me a little bit, I won't lie. She never would have said anything remotely this asinine, harmful, or racist. But they look similar. Anyway. It's honestly tiring. At the same time, good. Destroy yourselves, leftists. Please do. It's the inevitable conclusion of your ideology anyway. Just please speed up the process. We'd rather appreciate it.
This is what the...
Case in point number 5,662, this episode.
This is what the fuck I'm talking about. Check this out. Yeah, this
You've been
is
sucking
live
on helium?
happening right now. Thousands of motherfuckers chasing these pieces of shit off the block. We need a winter of love to accompany the summer of love right the fuck now. And I'm just saying, Minneapolis, y'all kicked it off last time around. And the rest of the country gladly followed. We can only lean on the "that's what they want" excuse for so long.
Point of personal
a conflict
privilege
is inevitable. It's coming.
Your
So we
voice
might
is
as
annoying
well
as
keep
shit.
them
Can you get
occupied.
someone
At
else
least
to do
if a
your
few
video for you?
million of us were in the streets, it would make it harder for them to, invade Greenland and kick off World War III. I think maybe we owe it to the rest of the international community at this point. And people down in Minneapolis are getting the fuck outside. Let's all jump off the motherfucking porch and get in the streets. Maybe remind ourselves how much power we actually have, huh? So, Mitty, kick the tires and light the fires.
Nope. Nothing to say. Nothing to say. All right, let's go to another white woman having an existential crisis about why America is this way.
As an American, there are some things that you can truly never fully understand until you leave the United States. I moved out of the United States 2.5 years ago, and since then, there have been moments where certain things happen that completely and utterly break everything that I've ever known. And today, one of those things happened. I'm currently living in Germany, and very recently, I just got a part-time barista job. It's completely a part-time thing and just something for me to...
How were you funding yourself before that? How were you funding yourself before you got the part-time barista job? Something tells me it wasn't by yourself.
Make some extra cash on the side, and I literally cannot even work more than 20 hours a week per my resident permit. And I haven't even started working.
You didn't just enter the country and start working?
Yet, but there are some things about this job that have already broken me in a good way. As I'm in talks with the boss trying to get this job, I'm expecting like, okay, we'll do like an interview or something and they can see if they like me or not. And the boss emails me about like, they don't do like an interview, they do like a tryout day, and they're telling me like, come in for the tryout day and see if you like it and if you fit in with the environment well. And when I went in for the tryout day and like all went really well and stuff, the boss asked me at the end, so like if you feel good about this job, like if you like it, if it suits you well and you think you might want to stay here, then just like write me an email and let me know by like Tuesday or whatever. And they're not saying anything about like whether they even like me or not. Like all the focus seems to be on whether like I like the job and I want to stay there. Like I ended up having to ask like, well, do you like me? Like my German isn't so good. So like, is it okay or is it like a problem? Like, how do you feel like I fit in with the environment? And only then did I hear from the boss like that, yeah, they liked me too. And then as we're going through the hiring process, like the first thing that they tell me is like, okay, the paperwork should be ready to sign in like 2 weeks. First things first, I need a little bit of information from you. And the first thing she asked me was,
will be ready in 2 weeks.
When do you want to take your vacation days this year?
Okay, let's get to the vacation in a second. Why don't they care if they like you? Why are they so concerned that you like the job? Because if they hire you and you turn out to be a lazy piece of shit that doesn't show up for work, they can't fire you. It's great for you and all. It's not so good for the small business owner that is trying to provide a service at an affordable price to the town. They literally can't fire you. That's the problem. And that's why they are more concerned that you like the job, so that you might actually show up. Probably won't anyway, because who's going to make you? But there's more, but we'll leave it at that. Let's let her hear about vacation days and healthcare.
Literally the first thing that they asked me. Guess how many vacation days I get for a part-time 20-hour-a-week barista job? I am allotted 36 vacation days, or 6 weeks in a 6-day work week schedule. 6 weeks. But the thing that broke me today was an email from my boss telling me that not only is it possible for me to go on the public healthcare system, but it's literally required for me to. For context, this has never been possible for me before, and since I turned 25 and moved outside of the United States, I've only been able to have essentially travel insurance. And now through the German public healthcare system, I can pay into it and then see pretty much any doctor that I want to, as long as they have an available appointment for free or pretty much free. And the amount...
What was that part about if they have an available appointment? First of all, only possible because Germany doesn't have to defend itself. But we've had that conversation many times, so no need to go into it. Let's see. And realistically, she doesn't qualify for German healthcare part-time as a foreigner without paying for it. But even if she did, if there is an available appointment, which you might get in 6 months, let's say you get stomach ulcers, okay? And you need treatment for it. But you gotta see a specialist, gastro, whatever specialist. Maybe in a year. Maybe. And that's if the government, who runs the insurance, decides you need it. Because if the insurance company isn't the one deciding, the government is. Not doctors, bureaucrats. The grass isn't greener, guys. The average German makes about half as much as the average American. Average American household right now, almost $90,000. That's $89,000 something. Compared to the average German household, that's like 40 to 50 extra grand. Your health care doesn't cost that much. Even for a family of 4, you're at most probably paying $20 a year. And that's for some nice coverage. Clearly, this woman's not even old enough to have tried to get insurance in America, because she would know that even if you're not working, as a woman, it's free. Literally free.
That you pay into it is like 100 euros a month. I haven't been to a dentist in like 10 years, and
dental's not part of it.
I know that partially that's definitely my fault, but I literally, through like the public health insurance, it's like required for you to go like twice a year. I was like kind of freaking out when I first got the email, and I was like texting my German friends so that they could like help me understand.
It's required to go for a cleaning twice a year. But if you need something done, good luck.
Stand better, and because like I translated it, but I was like, I don't want this to be like a false translation or something and me get my hopes up for no reason. And they were like, congratulations, like, but I was like really overwhelmed by it, and they were like, I don't understand what the big deal is. Like, yeah, of course, anyone in Germany who makes more than like 600 euros a month, they automatically can go on the public health insurance. And they're asking me like, what, you didn't know that? And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. Of course I could have like researched that, but like the thing is when you're socialized like as an American, like why would I have even expected that or thought to research something like that? We don't even have a public healthcare system like this. And a 20-hour-a-week barista gig would never give you social safety nets from it. Like, why would I have
they
expected
exist
that?
without the gig.
People who are not American will never understand.
She doesn't have any idea what she's talking about, obviously, because if you weren't working 20 hours a week, you could get food stamps, you could get housing, you could get health care, all free. Your health care especially, you can keep working 20 hours a week. Your free health care. As long as you report your expenses correctly. The issue is not with this person. They have an experienced system they live under in the U.S., and that is good. I'm genuinely happy for people didn't. Issues the United States of America and the system built being cruel, unhuman, and unlivable. First of all, you didn't build shit. That's part of the problem here, hun.
And that Americans systemically is so harsh and unforgiving and just cruel that it socializes you. If you're poor If you're not wealthy, then it
also
socializes
free.
you into having just an overall pessimistic mindset or having expectations that every
I experienced this as a lower middle class, straight passing cis white woman. Now imagine how unbelievably difficult it must be for black, brown, and indigenous people experiencing this racism every single day, oftentimes to a degree that is violent. Thank God this woman's in Germany.
everything will be so difficult and or impossible that you should set your standards super, super, super low, like in hell, so that you can be easier to exploit.
You notice
Why
that she's
would I
living in
have
a single
ever
room,
thought
right?
to look something
because
like that up?
people don't own houses
I'm used
in
to
Germany.
a part-time job
The
giving
lower
you
middle
nothing.
class does.
I'm used to public health care not even really existing. I'm used
They live in
to
studio
literally
apartments.
everyone I love around me being like constantly in this state of like nervous system dysregulation because they're constantly in fear.
Not claiming that these things can't also happen in Germany. Just receiving affordable health care from a part-time barista gig is crazy to me.
That if they have 2-3 bad
Alright,
months,
that's
then they're
enough for
literally
ranting. Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know. All right. I want to read this here. Wrong one. Why wokies can't write. This comes from Devin Erickson, at Devin Erickson, at Devin_Erickson_. And I'm going to see if I can have him on the show. But he wrote this, and it's a little long, but he wrote this piece here on why wokies, as he called them, can't write. And I think it's a pretty accurate perspective. I think it's pretty good. Did you ever wonder why wokies can't write good fiction? No, it's not just because they insist on making every story a soapbox to deliver a lecture from. They do that, but it's covering up a deeper problem. That's why they write stories that suck even when they are compelled to stop preaching for 5 minutes by threat of imminent bankruptcy. Even when they try to write a story that's just a story, they're no good at it because they lack the most critical skill that fiction authors must have. Empathy. Yeah, you read that correctly. I'm reading his words. Wokies lack empathy. Yes, they say they have loads of it. They berate the chuds for lacking it. They talk about it constantly. The wokies are actually defined by their lack of empathy. Lacking empathy is the very thing that makes them wokies. And they are blind to this fact because they don't know what empathy really is. They think it means being nice to people, or having sympathy for them, or thinking well of them. But obviously, it means none of those things. Empathy means the ability to understand someone else's point of view. Doesn't mean you like them, doesn't mean you trust them, doesn't mean you want to invite them to your country or let them babysit your kids. Doesn't mean you want to excuse their crimes. It just means you know what they're thinking and why. How they feel and why they do what they do. Wokies are wokies because they have little or no empathy. They don't understand other people. They only understand themselves. When they try to understand other people, they do so by assuming that everyone is like them. If they are nice, sweet, good-natured people, they will assume that George Floyd was just like them and he only robbed people because he wasn't given enough money or hugs. Don't believe them? Ask them. If they are sociopathic thugs, like George Floyd was, they will assume that the middle-class professional are just like them. And the only reason they don't rob banks is because they're too scared to take risk. Or too privileged. They were just handed what they have. But whoever they are, This is why they subscribe to blank slateist theories of human nature. This is why they say dumb things like there is only one race, the human race, when they would never say there are no dog breeds. This is why they want to invite Pushtun tribesmen to their nice middle-class American neighborhoods and expect them to fit in. It's why they want to hug a serial murderer and forgive them instead of hanging them by lethal execution. That's what he said. It's why they insist every show on television has to include a character who looks or talks exactly like them, because they can't identify with somebody who doesn't. It's when they adapt. It's why when they adapt for TV the story of a fantasy world, Hedge Knight, written by someone who actually read some medieval history, it's full of irrelevant brown people, childhood backstory inserts, saxophone soundtrack music, and snarky millennial dialogue. It's why when they have to write their own stories, they write snarky dialogue about minor Chinese American intergenerational trauma that they have because their parents lacked empathy too. It's so fascinating to them, and they can't even conceive of the very obvious fact that everyone else in the room is stifling a yawn. And it's not just why they can't come up with interesting stories. It's also why they can't actually write. Empathy is the primary skill of a fiction writer, because every moment that you are actually sitting at your desk banging away on your keyboard, trying to write something compelling about a fictional guy in a fictional situation, what you have to do is empathize in two directions at once. You must empathize with the character, who is a bit like you, but not completely, to understand and convey what he's thinking, what it feels like for him to be where he is, and what he's likely to do. And you must simultaneously empathize with the reader, who is a bit like you, but also not completely, and isn't there for you to observe so you can present all the above in a way that's interesting to him. Wokies can't do either one because they don't have the empathy to begin with, and can only understand themselves. So they write stories about carbon copies of themselves for carbon copies of themselves, and no one is interested except carbon copies of themselves. Which is why even wokies don't consume woke stories at anything at the same rate chuds read chud stories, because wokies are not actually all the same except in their lack of empathy. They just think they are. So they get served stories that they ideologically approve of, and will write a social media post in support of, but they don't really follow those stories too much, because they're actually not that into it. And to be clear, the numbers bear that out. Woke stories flop. They always do, which means even the woke aren't watching them. After all, even if you choose to write a self-insert character, you still need the empathy to make the character interesting to someone who isn't a self-insert reader. Good authors can write stories about characters and situations that all compelling for people who like those characters and situations. Great authors can write characters who are understandable and interesting to readers who are totally different from both the author and character. Wokies can barely manage to entertain clones of themselves. Now look, that's an opinion. Maybe you don't agree with that opinion. I think there's something to that, though. And I think it makes a lot of sense for what I've observed, at least. He shared this off of a woke series. This is what he shared it off of. I guess a woke series on Netflix that just premiered. First look at Dang. Andrew Law, Stephanie Zhu, and Poppy Lou star in the new adult animated comedy about two chaotic siblings whose lives are upended when their overachieving older sister suddenly returns, premiering later this year on Netflix. Like my presenter voice? Oh good, another therapy session turned animated series. You know you can make fantasy, horror, sci-fi, or any other genres, right? No wonder American animation is burning down. No one wants to watch your personal feelings of inadequacy. Why do so many cartoons now sound just like what the creators are doing to work through their stuff instead of therapy? Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know I could do that. Look at that. Okay. Let's see. Get you back off there and see what else we got, if anything. I think we're about ready to call it a night, guys. I did want to share this because, you know, yeah. Just days after Senator John Thune said there was no time to debate and to vote on the SAVE Act, it was revealed that senators held a dog parade inside the chamber, bringing their pets in for photos and celebration instead of moving forward on the election bill. So this is what your politicians are doing instead of voting on the SAVE Act.
You've been hanging around the Senate button. Come on in.
There he is.
Oh yeah, and the senator came too.
This is a fat dog.
Everybody knows Baby Dog's story, right? Dog is. And you have been hanging around the Senate button. Come on.
So there you have it. Obviously, they're up to very important business and can't get around to passing the SAVE Act. Yay. By the way, at the end of yesterday's episode, we'll save the socialism video for tomorrow. At the end of yesterday's episode, I mentioned a conspiracy theory that was going around about Candace Owens, and that Matt Wallace had posted that he had been paid to say bad things about Candace Owens. Follow up to that, there was a bunch of people that posted pictures of a bunch of influencers that had used the phrasing demonic and evil to describe Candace Owens after the release of her Bride of Charlie, or Charlie's Bride, or whatever it is, series. Now look, we all know Candace Owens is off the deep end, okay? It's not shocking that they use the word evil and demonic across several places. There was also allegedly an email sent that was promoting the use of the demonic and evil language. However, there was no claim as to who sent the email or who was behind it. There was no proof that it was real at all. It was just text on white screen, which of course anybody could type up. And I might have jumped to conclusions. Now, I didn't say anything definitive. I said that I don't know for sure what it's all about, because I didn't. But the fact is, I don't think there's anything to it. I do think that there are elements on the right that do operate in that way that elements on the left do. But I also think that there are elements on the left that operate in a way to make elements on the right look dirty, essentially. And that has to be kept in mind as well. And not just the left, elsewhere too. Foreign enemies, things like that. And the fact is, when there's no proof on either side, Matt Wallace offered absolutely no evidence that he was offered money. He just said it. And he's hardly a guy that I would give credibility to. I've reported on some things he's reported on, but only if I can verify it with independent facts. Because he's one of these people that will post things entirely for clicks. And while I'm no stranger to clickbait headlines myself, I'm very clear on this show when I know something versus when I think something versus when I'm just reporting something but have no way to verify one way or another. Because, as I said yesterday, credibility is the most valuable thing. Period. So I just wanted to clarify, I don't think there's anything to it. I don't think that it can be ignored that so many people posted such a similar thing. But I don't think there was specifically like an email or something behind it. I think these were people that are loyal to TPUSA. And I think that they kind of operate hive mind-ish anyway. That's why I don't tend to follow or go along with those people. Not me. And I will never accept money to say something about somebody or be forced to say something I don't believe for one reason or another. And if that means I'm not part of a group, whatever that group is, could care less. I would hope that's true for every conservative. Should be. It's the only thing that aligns with our principles. Unfortunately, I know it's not. And you should be very wary of those people. Candace being one of them, by the way. I have no love for Candace in any way, shape, or form. It's even possible that she was behind that in order to promote her show. Nothing helps promote conspiracy like a good conspiracy. But I don't know. Can't say. I do know that Candace specifically, and why I'm willing to throw her under the bus specifically, is because she's throwing a lot of awful allegations around with zero evidence. I had a dream. Good for you. Now shut up. All right. Don't forget to check out my co-host, Austin, from the Miller Talk podcast, millertalk.substack.com. Allan from from the American Sincerest podcast at FirstAllan2 on X. And of course, this show, x.com/JBU_show, anchor.fm/JBU, and pretty soon coming from Patreon. I'm trying to get this stuff straightened out so there's not so many websites and we're not all over the place and everything's getting streamed to all the places at once. Pain in the ass, because you start on one system, that system doesn't quite have everything you need, you move to a different system, but then that system doesn't quite have everything the old system did, and it's not fun, but we'll get there. I appreciate you guys being with us as always and hanging out. If there's any topic you would like to cover on the show, whether it be a personal topic or a political one, send me an email, jbu@usa.com, or send me a message on x.com/JBU_show or at JBU_show, as you can see there. Until tomorrow night at 8, my name is Chris, and this has been the JBU Show.